everyone. Welcome back to the Slumber Party podcast. I am here today with co-host Lisa Ramnarine. That's
Hello.
better. That was a better intro for you this time. And former client Kat. I feel like most of my guests are former clients, but it's not. It's just you have so many great ideas and stories. I had to have you on.
I appreciate that.
Kat, before we started recording, we were actually kind of just jumping into this idea, and I sort of said, "Pause. Let's talk about this on the podcast." But you had said, I said, "Okay, how are your kids?" And you said, "I have a 3-year-old and I have a 7-year-old in a pandemic, so I'm as good." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's a really good way to put it." And the reason why you're on the slumber party this week is because you have a wonderful idea, an idea that I tell all of the people who call me in the newborn stage. But you hired a support person overnight, a night nurse, a night nanny. Did you have what was your name for your person at night?
Let's call her Dawn because that's her
Dawn.
name, and she was wonderful.
Sent from the heavens,
Yeah.
there's a lot of like imagery, right? Like her name is Dawn and she stays with you till dawn.
That's what I pictured immediately.
Amanda, let me just tell you, Dawn the angel, like everything about Dawn was incredible. Everything. Dawn held my baby for 5 months.
Well, that's it, right? Like
it's amazing.
I have so many thoughts and feelings on this. I mean, part of why I do sleep training is because I feel like there is a feminist bend to it where we tell women you can do it all, but give them no support and ask them to work like men in a capitalist society that like relies on unpaid labor of women. That's a whole other discussion. But then we're like, okay, act like a man, but also do all the things, also have a baby, also breastfeed all the time, also sleep with that baby whenever you want. And so while I don't judge those things, it can be really hard to do all of those things that I just said all in a row. Some can do it. And so when I hear you say like, I have so many clients who call me at the 6 to 8 week mark. They're struggling. No one told them like, sleep deprivation was supposed to be easier than this, and it's not. I always say, look, here are your options. You can hire me. I can support you. You can buy a snoo, or you should get a night nanny. And I am so passionate about that if you can afford it to do it. And I would love for you to just tell me your beginning to your end. Like what made you pull the trigger? Tell me about it. I want other people to pull the trigger.
Yeah. So I'll give you like a quick, I guess the preamble is I have a son, William, who's 3, and we sleep trained with Amanda, and it worked beautifully. And that was a funny one because sleep training now in retrospect with William, I'm laughing, like in my heart, I'm laughing because all we did was take the soother out of his mouth and close the door. And then he was sleep trained.
You're not giving yourself enough credit. I remember William. He had some challenges in there too. I remember.
I mean, okay, well, we can debate that another time. Sydney is amazing. It's my daughter. She's 7 months old. She's amazing, but she is fierce. She is a fighter. If she is not a boxer or a politician, I will be shocked.
You said you want to hand over your business to her because she's such a boss.
No, I want to hand over my husband's business to her, not mine. Nobody wants to do what I do. Sydney, I went into labor with Sydney at 9:30 in the morning. I went to the hospital at noon. I was home with that baby girl by dinner. So she does not play around. She's not a joker. Like someone said, this is a pandemic. You need to get out and back home ASAP. And she said, I'm on it. I am on it. And I take no prisoners.
She understood the assignment. Look how modern I am with that. That was such a good.
Look at you.
Yeah.
Start a meme account. Start a second account immediately.
No, I can't. I can't. It's too much.
Start a second account. So the first 3 weeks of life with Sydney was wonderful. I was breastfeeding. It was working. I was working. I was holding a newborn baby. I had a nanny looking after my son. My husband was happy. He slept in another room, so I was awake with the baby. Amanda, I have a snoo. I thought that was the answer. William was a snoo baby. Worked beautifully.
And it didn't really work for Sydney.
The issue with Sydney is Sydney would not do anything on her back.
Right. Yes.
Sydney had to be on her chest for everything sleep related.
That's right. I remember that.
And me being the type of mom that I am, went down the rabbit hole of Google where it was like, if you so much as put that child on her chest to sleep before she can roll over, death immediately. Death. Death. Immediate death.
As is the internet's advice. Yes. Look, if I'm going to just save you all a lot of time. If you're looking up, will this kill me? I'm just going to say the answer is yes. The answer is yes. I have a current ear problem and
death.
It's death. When you look it up, any moment now. So I can only imagine.
Amanda, I saw you got the Dyson hair wrap. Death.
If I'm not careful,
it's probably killed someone.
Like, just because of the beauty of it, someone died.
Of course. Death. Anyway, so...
Or Lisa might kill me if I talk about it again. Yeah, one of those. I mean, sorry, go ahead.
So as the 3 weeks progressed, and I was holding a baby all night long to sleep, the more scared I got about death because I wasn't sleeping. And towards the end of the third week, my husband called 3 of my girlfriends, I believe, and said, my wife is losing it. She does work during the day and she holds a baby all night and she's breastfeeding. So something has to change. And they said, no problem, Andrew, night nurse. And so Andrew innocently came and he was like, we're going to get a night nurse. And I was like, no. I was like, I'm not going to trust a stranger to hold my baby all night. And he was like, right, so we're just going to try it for one night. And I was like, no. I did my serious voice. No.
This is the equivalent to taking your family to just go look at puppies.
Right. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So in comes Dawn one night. I know. And I was like, I don't get it, Andrew.
Clouds
so like, I'm just supposed to hand my baby over to a stranger and she's going to hold her all night. I'm fine with this. And Andrew was like, yes, I think you could probably use some sleep. Just some. I was like, it's not happening, but okay. And he said, all right. I meet Dawn and it's like, again, the angels were singing. It's like, this is the calmest human being I've ever met in my entire life. And
that's by design.
She like sailed down the hall with my baby who was sleeping. And I was like, I'm just going to close my eyes for a minute.
And then it was 7 a.m.
No, I was still nursing. So Dawn, but this is the thing. Dawn would come back in with the baby and she'd be like, sweetheart, I'm here for the baby to nurse. Like the baby wasn't even crying. She was like, I'm here for the baby to nurse. And she would hand the baby over to me and she'd sit on this little stool in my room and tell me wonderful stories about life in Jamaica.
I want a Dawn, like, just
Dawn taking children, new children.
So this is the other thing. Dawn has 6 kids.
Yeah. Wow.
Angel, I'm telling you.
Angel.
So Dawn would come in and tell me wonderful stories about her 6 children in Jamaica while I breastfed. And then she'd pick up the baby quietly from me. And like the second she touched her, she burped. And then she'd just sail off. and come back whenever she needed feeding again.
It sounds now, honestly, I feel like what you've just described is pornography for
It was
like a large, like you were even talking slowly when you said it. And I think there are some new moms right now that are like, there's a few things that you mentioned there that I just want to highlight. So there are, there's so many things that I connect there personally with. So you went back to work pretty early. I went back to 4 months. And so why I say this is like, I am not placing any meaning on that. I went back to work when I was 4 months postpartum, and everyone had something to say to me about that, which drove me crazy. Did you have people talking to you about that?
Yeah, of course. Of course.
What would a mothering experience be like without extra opinions?
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, people talk to me about having a night nurse. People talk to me about having a snoo the first time. There was tons of judgment.
Yeah, I felt like people would be like, "Oh, are you okay?" And I'm like, "I'm here. What do you mean, am I okay? Of course I'm okay." Like, I really, really, really resented people's like empathy or like pretend empathy is like a thinly veiled judgment of like, or people would just say, "I think you should be at home with your baby." It's like, thank you so much, but I don't feel like you need to be working to have. So on the opposite, I think that a lot of parents feel guilty about hiring a night nanny or a night nurse or a caregiver because they're not working. Well, I'm not working, so Kat can get one because she was working, but I'm not. And this is what mothers should do. And I say bullshit.
You know what? If you can swing it, night nannies are not inexpensive. If you can swing it and you're comfortable with it and it feels good, do it.
Can I ask, this is like just for data purposes, would you be comfortable sharing a range of, I have no idea how much a night nanny costs at all.
There's a range for sure. It's anywhere from, I believe it was around, I want to say $20 to $30 an hour.
Okay. Yeah.
And generally speaking, again, I'm generalizing. So $20 to $30 an hour. Generally speaking, most night nurses, night nannies are looking for work at least 5 days a week and at least 8 hours a night. So it could be.
Do they sleep? Sorry.
Well, this also, here's another range for you. There are night nurses that require you to have a bed in the room with the crib. So when the baby sleeps, they sleep.
I would need to do that. When I did like overnights back in the day, I would be like, I'm going to sleep. Because I couldn't be a functional human. What was your expectation there? Would you feel comfortable if your person was sleeping or not, or what is the general like practice? I guess it just depends.
So in my case, after I met Dawn after the first night, and again, I got to know her very well in a couple of nights because, again, she sat on this like wonderful stool in my room while I was feeding and told me wonderful stories in the middle of the night. From that point on, let's say like night 3, from that point on, I was like, you know so much more about parenting than I do. So if you want to stand with the baby, stand with the baby. If you want to put the baby in the crib because you think she's ready, put the baby in the crib. If you want to hold the baby, hold the baby. If you want to recline in that wonderfully comfortable chair in our room, recline.
Totally.
Like she had such a deep wisdom about and what such a wise person. that for me, it was like, you are going to help guide me through this, because this is a baby who will not sleep on her back. So you basically have to, so Dawn effectively spent the first couple of weeks holding Sydney while she slept on her chest. So for me, it was like, oh, okay. So, I mean, she probably dozed off a few times while holding the baby, which I realize that nobody recommends. But like, again, everything was fine. Everything went well. I didn't ask.
Yeah.
It just went well.
Oh, I'm mostly asking in terms of like, there wasn't well, it's funny. We were just talking about like Facebook mom groups and in the last podcast recording. And I often see online, like people will, I shouldn't say often. I haven't really been in a Facebook mom group in a few years, but like
That's good. It's really unhealthy.
It's super unhealthy. Unless you're recommending baby's best sleep to a friend. Okay, that's when it's
different.
Super
totally
healthy.
different.
Totally different.
Yeah.
That's sound advice.
Yeah, it's just like common sense. What we should all be doing. No, so this refrain would often come up, like probably every 3 months. Someone would come on and be like, "I got home and my nanny was sleeping on the couch, and I'm pissed." And for me, I'm even like being careful around how I discuss this. I wouldn't that wouldn't bother me, because I don't want my caregiver to be better than me in every way, number one. And kids are so exhausting. I guess I just don't expect superhuman abilities from someone who's like, we're all working together, right? Like the amazing experience, I think, comes out of this like collaboration you essentially have with another person. Like we had a caregiver who lived in our house for 4 years, and I like still miss her. I love her. I loved making parenting decisions with her and like discussing our kids, and I never felt like, I don't know, I never felt in competition. I always felt like very together. And that's sort of like, if I came home and my caregiver was sleeping on the couch, I'd be like, yeah, my kids are exhausting. Also, good for you. Like, this is what, especially if they're sleeping. Like, and that was always the thing. Like, the baby was sleeping or looked after, and the caregiver had dozed on the couch. I don't know. So, like, I think that's why I asked. It's like, I don't think I would care. Especially like, do you need a bed? What do you need? Do you need your feet rubbed? Like, what? I mean, what do you need?
so this was the other thing is, I think we were in a unique situation, because I went 3 weeks with virtually no sleep at all, which was a bit lunatic.
Totally.
And so Dawn's schedule with us, and I don't know if this was by design. I don't know if this is normal for her. It was just what she suggested to us. And I just said yes. She said, I'm happy to work 13 out of 14 nights for you. And I said, I am here for that.
Absolutely.
And so, so Dawn worked 13 out of 14 nights for us. And so I'll add into this that Sydney, I mean, when Dawn first started, she was only 3 weeks old, but Sydney was having multiple feeds, mostly nursing from me up until the last month. And even in the last month, which is why we had to move to sleep training. In the last month, she was still having 2 full bottles a night with Dawn. So she was sleeping on her stomach. Luckily, she rolled early. She was sleeping on her stomach in the crib, but she was still waking up twice a night with Dawn for a full bottle. So, I mean, Sydney was a handful.
I'm wondering, when you're talking about finding Dawn and her walking into your life, how does one find a Dawn? Like, what did you do?
By the way, can we say snaps to your girlfriends for letting your husband exactly what needs to be done on your behalf?
Yes. And snaps to your husband for calling the girls.
Seriously, yes. Him calling the girls and the girls just knowing exactly
Yeah, no, I mean, yes, my husband knows
Amazing.
what's up. He also knows when I'm, like, he can accept for a period of time when I'm like, no, I'm going to do it my way. And you're just going to have to watch me crumble. Like, he can accept that for a little while. And then when he starts to see the pieces fall apart, he's like, okay, so we're going to step in here. And I'm going to figure out the gentlest way to help unravel or ravel or, whatever it is that I've
figure this out for
caused.
you.
Yeah, no, but good crew, good support crew here.
Yeah.
How do you find Dawn? Well,
Yeah, like what were your steps in finding her?
so this was word of mouth for us. He called one of my girlfriends. She said, this is the agency that we worked with, because normally you have to word of mouth night nurses. You normally have to book when you get pregnant. It's like trying to get a daycare spot in Toronto.
Yeah, I've heard
And
that.
so he called this agency, and this lovely woman said, we actually have a night nurse available named Dawn. And Andrew thought, uh-oh, like, if you have someone available, is that like the one that nobody wants? And then this angel waltzed in, and sure enough, within 2 nights of Dawn chatting about other babies she had worked with, and I was like, oh, you've worked with so and so and so and so. And I was like, okay, you're good peeps.
This is good advice. I try to tell, like, my consultants, I'm like, no, it's good if you're busy. You're never hotter than when you're busy. I learned this like by accident, because everything about my business starting has been kind of an accident. Like, I'm like, oh, let's do this. Oh, that worked. Oh, let's do this. So like one of the things was like, I had to go back to school. So I hustled, and then I got really busy at the end of the summer. So I had to go back to school in September 2018. And I was like, all right, I'm going to raise my prices, and I'm only going to take 2 clients a week. I have never been more attractive in my whole entire life. So then like people would call me and be like, when are you? I know that you're highly sought after and booked. And I was like, no, I'm working another job. Like, that's what this is. But then actually when you do get very, very busy, you are like, it's very attractive, to your point, where it's like, if you're too available, people wonder why, like, what's going on. But sometimes it means jack shit, and you should just take whatever
You
night nurse is available.
Yeah. But yeah, that is how we got Dawn. And really, I mean, in my heart, I mean this sincerely. I didn't think I was going to like having a night nurse. I thought, if the best case scenario was just that I was uncomfortable but got the sleep I needed, then she'd be with us for maybe a month, and that would be the end of it. I was incorrect.
Yeah. I know. I feel like when we even started, I felt like I was coming into you were like, look, I really love our night nurse.
Yeah.
And if this doesn't work, I have a very solid plan B.
Totally.
I was like, okay, all right, I get it.
But I also knew I had to cut the cord with Dawn. Like, I had to go cold turkey. A lot of my friends were like, are you going to try sleep training and then maybe just have like Dawn on the weekends so you can have like a little bit? I was like, no, man. I was like, I need to go cold turkey. Otherwise, this will not happen. Yeah.
So yeah, that's actually a good point to bring up, because I have heard of this, but some night nurses will do sleep training. I've heard a lot don't. They kind of don't really want to. They just, from my experience, I've worked a lot in this scenario where I'm like, or I'll do an in-home, and it's like me, the family, and the night nurse, and like we're all doing it together. There's like a transition plan. I know that's happened. But most are sort of happy to like move on. Like, they really are Mary Poppins. Like, they want to move on. They understand. And then they're like, my work is done here. And then they go.
Yeah.
That's the ideal scenario. Yeah.
Yeah, no. So that was, I mean, obviously that was a very tough thing for me to decide what night that was going to be. And I believe, again, my husband stepping in here, I believe my husband called the agency and said, can you just hold on to Dawn for a week while we try this?
You told me that. I think that did happen.
Yeah.
I felt the pressure was on because Sydney had a tough first night, and I was like, "Oh God, come on, girl."
Tough first night. Sydney was a really tough baby to sleep train. I'm from all accounts of every podcast I've listened of yours, every e-newsletter you've sent, all of my friends that have done sleep training in some capacity, Sydney was a tough nut to crack.
Mm-hmm. But I want to say though, like, I don't want to come on and talk about. So I've heard a lot of crazy things on the other end where like clients will tell me, oh, I've worked with like another consultant, and with my first baby, they said like, oh, like what a little gremlin, or like this is the hardest baby I've ever worked with, or they'll like say crazy things.
Yikes.
And I'm so conscious of ever talking about that unless it's like something like on this podcast, we're having this discussion. I'm comfortable with it. But I never want to be like, this baby was so hard. Everything was hard, because I think it's more common than people think. And it's why we exist. Like sleep training is not easy. A lot of the times parents will maybe shouldn't say a lot, but some parents hire us and things are easy because they have a chilled out kid and they just wanted to get ahead of it. And like probably with like William, we took down the pacifier. Okay, bye. But a lot of parents have a challenging time with sleep training. And this is why like people will try on their own 700 times before finally hiring us, because I think that the idea is this is so easy. And this is what I tell my clients when they're like, the baby's crying. I'm like, I know. This is why I exist, because this is hard. And you hired me to help you do a hard thing. So I'm not saying like she was tougher, but it's a common experience that many people face. And I think it's more common than people think.
Sydney had a lot of things working against her. Her day one sleep training, the night before, she slept with a soother, with a night nurse, and had 2 bottles. And day one, she had none of the above.
When she finally,
tough.
it was tough.
I didn't expect it to be easy, but I'll also be totally honest with you. And I've worked with you before. I knew it was going to be challenging, but I also like, remember, I already had your booklets. Like, this was the other thing. A lot of my friends were like, I don't understand why you're hiring someone again. You have the information. Like, Kat, you can just print out the old emails. Like, you have the schedule. Like, you could just. And I was like, guys, it's really, really important for me to have someone to blame in my head when the baby's crying.
I say this all the time.
Yes.
I say this verbatim. People want someone to be mad at when their baby's crying. So like, I had a dad be like, why do you do this? Like, we were really mean to you in the first night. I was like, oh, it's okay, because it turns it around. Like everything's going to turn it around. It's worth it in the end. But that's essentially what we are.
No, it was really important to me. So I guess here's the flip side of that is I needed to know, and I did know this from William, I needed to know that I liked you enough that I couldn't actually hate you and like end the process. But I could be mad for a while.
Yeah. Totally. I am like, I probably need some therapy about why, like, I'm like so happy to do this. Maybe it's because in the end it always turns around, right? But it's funny because I know when parents are upset or they're mad, or I'll be like, hey, how's it going? And I don't hear from them. I'm like, they just need some cool off time. Like the baby's crying and I'm the person and I get it. But it also like, it's such, like when you're in a sleep deprived state and your baby is crying, your brain is also activated and you are acting in ways that are not like your normal self. I think about this. I had a like aha moment. I think I talked about this recently where Winnie had tonsil surgery and she fell asleep and missed her pain dose, and like she was in so much pain but couldn't swallow. It was truly like one of the most traumatizing experiences for myself. Anyway, I was like not okay. I was not reacting okay. If there was a camera in my house, you might be like, she needs to be committed somewhere. Like, I wasn't okay when my child was like that. And I think that's like what why I, once this pandemic is better, I still like doing in-home consultations because it keeps you honest. It can be so easy to advise people from your phone or from your office, but doing it in home and reminding yourself of like the actual experience, like keeps you honest. Because nobody is their right mind. No one's at their best at that moment.
No.
It's so hard to see past your love and and just wanting to your baby to stop crying, whatever it is, right? And you need your rest too. You need your rest so you can handle those sleep training nights.
Yeah,
100%.
because parenting is hard. So we had Dawn from 3 weeks up until I think 5.5 months. And then we cut the cord.
And you survived and you did so well.
Yeah.
And it was a pandemic and. So
yeah.
Look, I love that you shared this story, and I can't believe it took me so long to like talk about this, because I'm a big fan of getting any help, whether that's a night nurse or a sleep consultant or a lactation consultant. We just, unfortunately or fortunately, we don't live in those communities anymore where there was someone in your group to do those things. We need a team, and it is a privilege. And if you can afford it, you should absolutely do it. And if you can't afford it, but you have a like willing mother-in-law, you should totally use that help. You should use help. And I remember my in-laws coming over, and they made the best dinner. I can still taste it. Like, I had Winnie, and my mother-in-law made me a roast, and I ate that roast like I've never eaten food. Anyway, but I was like very anxious about them helping with the baby, and I really regret that I didn't use them more. And it might just take time, but getting that help is going to change your entire like early days experience, whether that's through a consultant or a night nanny or whatever. You got to do what you got to do.
But on that note, I should also add, I don't want to say there's nothing wrong with, but something to know for people that haven't had a baby yet. It's also a completely reasonable thing to save up for and know that it's okay to like miss maybe a savings goal by a little bit 1 year because you needed to do this.
That's right.
Like, this is like rainy day spending. This is, I need this. Like, I really do think people underestimate how important even getting some sleep is.
How damaging it can be for your mental health and for a couple, right? To not only become new parents and deal with the trauma of giving birth and all of these things. If you don't have your tribe, or even if you do, but they're not the tribe that likes to come over at night and stay up all night with your baby. I mean, it is such a tough thing. And it sometimes does take an older, wiser, or more clearer thinking parent, right? To sort of give you that gentle nudge. Sometimes it can't even be gentle, sometimes you need to just tell the mom to go away, right? Give me the baby and go lay down. Right?
Yeah.
I was thinking when you were saying that this is like what people should put on their registries. Like, you literally don't need shit. I'm going to tell you this right now. Anything that they tell you, you need a crib, you need a sheet or two or three sheets. You need a swaddle, some sleepers. That's it. Honestly, take the rest of that money and put it into someone who can help you. I remember, I feel so annoyed by this. I went into like a store, and I was like, I don't know what I should put on my registry. And they just gave me a list. And then I put on the things that were on the list. And Like people bought me like forks and spoons for my newborn. And I was like, thank God that was on the registry. I have it now. I have forks and spoons for babies.
So many things off my list right now. When my newborn comes, I don't ever have to think about the spoons.
Yeah.
I had 27 pacifiers. Guess what? Both girls hated pacifiers. I had every type and kind. They just gave me the metaphorical middle
stuffed
finger.
animals. Stuffed animals.
Yes. Blankets.
Blankets and stuffed animals. You know what?
Monogrammed blanket.
No,
we're
nobody
laughing
needs to
because
register for either of those things. Call me. I'll give you a blanket.
And we're laughing because you don't need them and they're unsafe. So, oh my gosh, I just realized we're getting into good nap territory. We're in 35 minutes and I'm going to get in trouble from my friends who helped me make this podcast not sound like I'm hitting the mic every 15 seconds, which I did this podcast. Sorry. That's why I hired them to make them sound better. But Kat, this is such an important conversation. I want to say a huge thank you for joining us and sharing that. And hopefully, every time a woman hires a night nurse, another angel gets her wings.
That's right. That's what happens. That's how it works. Thanks for having me, guys. And thank you.
Dawn was actually like a mirage and she left and then she got wings and she went to heaven. That's what I'm going to imagine in my head.
That's how it works.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for helping me get Sydney sleeping. Take it easy and have a good sleep, ladies.
Thank you. Bye, Kat.